Good morning. It is April 17th, Saturday. It is about 5:45 a.m. Good morning. My name is Michael Schuman. I am the Administrative Director of the Karmic Margin Call Project, and welcome to today's presentation, which I'm calling the 3 Barriers to Deep Democracy. I've been doing these recordings for a couple of months now. So even though I'm making it public, anybody can view this on YouTube. I'll be making it public on Facebook as well. I'm really making this for my inner circle to help really clarify and do more of a deep dive conversation about reverse market mechanics, about fellowship, about time banking. So a little bit about myself. The way I introduce myself to people now is that I help good people with impeccable character leverage their time and talent in an effort to save 9 million lives a year or more. And I do that by leveraging time banking. So let's talk about that for a moment. The last couple of months, I've really been having a deep revelation. I've been really experiencing some really deep emotion coming out of me. And it's this idea that 33,000 people die a day. I read that statistic. 33,000 people die a day from starvation. And this is from conditions from poverty, war, emotional duress. And it's the kind of thing that I really want to be able to encourage people to break out of that scarcity mindset. There is an abundance of financial resources available to us, and I'm going to talk a lot about that in a little bit. And there's really no need anymore for anyone to go hungry. There's no need anymore for anyone to really be in impoverished conditions. I do believe poverty is contrived, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well too. And I'm going to offer the 3 barriers of what is really just getting in the way of us being able to provide for everyone, and the reversals to those barriers. So this is very sensitive for me because I've shared this information. I've shared this information with with billionaire interests. Their response to me was, "Well, we'll start to talk to you about it, but only if you turn over all rights and legal, ownership to us." And my response to them at the time, this was about 3 years ago, was, I'm open to that, but you have to understand we're creating what I call an equal partnership economy. Nobody owns it. Nobody has legal claim to it. It's just sharing knowledge. And, when you share the deepest knowledge, you find out real soon that, all of these political barriers, all of these, cultural barriers that we put in front of each other, they're really obsolete. They're not needed anymore. And there's really big secrets that are being hidden from us that don't need to be secrets. It's just, sharing generously to be able to overcome some of these obstacles. So, so that's what my intention is today, is just to share this openly. I went through a period over the last 3 years where I was really angry at, big corporations. I was really angry at big tech for, suppressing, this message, which is why I share it, openly and publicly, on platforms like Google, Facebook, YouTube. And, I'm in this state of mind now where I realize it's not their fault. It's not the billionaire interests' fault who tried to, take complete ownership of this. It's my fault. Every time I open my computer or every time I turn on my camera, I have a choice to, kind of waste time, get into my own emotional addictions, like on Facebook, getting into political debates or behavioral debates. And I understand because there's 33,000 people dying a day, that choice is just going along with the business plan, going along with the big tech business plan. So every time I indulge in those activities, it's like taking a life. But every time I do something related to this project, speaking openly, speaking from my heart, I'm working on a documentary film right now on how reverse market mechanics work. Every time I do that, I save a life. That might seem a little dramatic, but I've really made that real for me now. So anytime that you open your heart to somebody, anytime that you are doing what you know you're here to do on this earth, when you're making art, when you're opening your heart, when you're being vulnerable, when you're cultivating healthy relationships, you're saving a life. I believe that ripple effect, touches the life that you're opening up to, who will be inspired to touch the next life. And reverse market mechanics, this regenerative economy, is this idea that when you do that, 2 hours leads to 4 hours, 4 hours leads to 8, 8 leads to 16. That only needs to replicate itself 20 times. That means, someone takes ownership of their time just for 1 hour, and they inspire someone to do that as well, and they inspire two people to do that. It only has to replicate itself 20 times to reach 1,000,000 hours, 1,048,536 hours, 76 hours, something like that, 1,000,000 hours. So it's that kind of ripple effect that's taking hold. So so I'm gonna go through the 3 barriers today. I want to invite you into this conversation as well. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to do my best to answer some of those questions from my point of view today. At the end of this presentation, closer to the end of it, it's going to be about an hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half. I will be throwing a lot of numbers at you, and I'll try to go slow, but I'm really going to break down what reverse market mechanics is, and how to start to put it to work. All right, so I'm going to start recording on my computer. And here's the first slide. You are here. So this graphic, this picture depicts 2 economies that are running right now on our planet. One which is seen, one that we adhere to all the time, which is the extractive economy, or the debt-based economy. As of fall of last year, 2020, we were in the middle of COVID. We're still in the middle of COVID. It was about $277 trillion of debt that, we're all carrying. Every man, woman, child, every person on this planet is carrying that, and that's what makes things so competitive. And the picture that I use to depict that is a pyramid where all the power is pretty much at the top, and all of the struggle, all of the work, all of the competition flows down. And there's a little bullseye there, which represents what we're talking about on the right side, which is the regenerative economy. And I'll break this down later. But one of the biggest secrets that I think is being hidden from us is that there is almost a 4.9 quadrillion surplus out there for us. We just have to start treating each other better. The competitive economy creates these conditions of war, of poverty, emotional duress, physical duress as well too. Because we're constantly trying to make up for that deficit, and we're in these slave master or power master relationships where, we never feel like we're ever going to climb out of that together. But it's just a matter of switching psychology, understanding that everybody's hour is meaningful. Your time is meaningful. When you factor in time in these economic equations, you realize there's more than enough to go around for everybody. And 4.9 quadrillion, you divide that up evenly amongst the 7.8 billion people in this world. Well, I'll get into that later. It's phenomenal, what we are capable of. Saving lives, solving global problems, all of these things. It's just a matter of looking at the person in front of you and acknowledging that you're equal. That you both have gifts and you both have challenges. So let's go into that a little bit more later. So that's an introduction to our presentation. So I want to ask you, and I want you to really consider these questions here. Are you a change agent? Do you believe that the work you're doing or your intentions are, we're here to create change, to go from, a competitive world to a cooperative world? Are you here to help facilitate that change? So I'm asking you, as a partner, as an equal, is this of interest to you? Are you a thought leader? Are you constantly, coming up with these thoughts and wanting to have these deep dive conversations? Are you leading these conversations? But for some reason, those conversations seem to be elusive, or people are not quite getting your thoughts. They're not quite resonating with you. If that's you, I want to talk to you. So you may be a thought leader. Are you an influencer? The reason why I'm presenting this material specifically is because I listen a lot. There are a lot of great ideas. I mean, there are thousands of ideas out there on how to fix things, how to fix the economy, how to fix our culture, how to fix, how to fix the world. And it might not be a matter of fixing. It might just be a matter of opening up more. So if you're an influencer, I'd like to connect with you. There's so many ideas and everybody's shouting to be heard, but not too many people are listening. I found that when somebody starts to listen, that's when action is inspired. That's when something is catalyzed. So I'm interested in helping facilitate between other influencers how to move forward now. I think the common thread most of us are feeling is that, we have all these great ideas, we have so much to share with the world, but for some reason, the resistance, the problems seem to be getting more intense. And I believe that's because we just now need to connect. So what I'm offering through reverse market mechanics, the karmic margin call project, it's not another model. I'm going to quote my friend Trey Ashley Guerin, who is the cultivator of the Winfinity framework. We're not here to build a new model. We're here to model the build. So I want to create the safe spaces where influencers can come together and effectively move forward and synergize these ideas. So I'm offering a certification program. So we're still modeling the build for this. But if this information really resonates with you and you want to connect to me or connect to the material on a deeper level, there's a certification program available. I call it a fellowship facilitator and time bank broker certification. So there's two separate courses that can be combined into one. If you really like the idea of having deeper conversations, coming together in fellowship, that's one course that I'm going to be designing. If you really just want to get into the mechanics and the nuts and bolts of how to change to a regenerative economy, the time bank broker certification is also something that I'm in the process of developing as well. And I'd like to do that with you. I'd like to hear your ideas and we can build this together. So here are what I see as the three barriers to deep democracy and economic equality. So I've done this presentation about 2 times already. There's some corrections I do need to make, which is why I want to do this a 3rd time. But here are what I see as really what's getting in the way of going from here and changing the paradigm, going to there. The first is cultural divisiveness. And we see that all over the place, especially on social media. It's kind of like there's so many points of view and there's so much emotional distortion that we get sucked into these conversations of right or wrong. And it makes us angry, it makes us depressed, it makes us frustrated. But the development of emotional intelligence or emotional IQ will help us to see that everybody's kind of in a process. They have their own process of where they're at emotionally. So to be able to hold different points of view and find the intersections rather than the differences can help to bridge the gap of cultural divisiveness. That leads to competitive conditioning. I'm going to talk a little bit today about how social climbing or economic status can really lead to a lot of mental health issues. I've been reading a lot recently about something called acquired sociopathy, where you develop empathy, and on your way up the social ladder you have to practice empathy. But once you become powerful or once you become wealthy, you start to develop, there's evidence that show that there's abuses of power, and that leads to something called acquired sociopathy, where it's actually the wealthy who are more likely to do petty crimes or shoplift or be emotionally abusive. So it's almost like a form of brain damage. So that's something we want to look at as well and deep dive into in our conversations, that power is not all it's cracked up to be, and that it does kind of lead to sociopathy. It leads to, competitive conditioning leads to sociopathy and turning off our ability to empathize. And then finally, that leads to the third barrier, which is the extractive economy. I'm going to go a little bit into how that system works and how it does really extract our energy, our resources, kind of harvests what's dead. And I'm going to introduce reverse market mechanics and how to kind of change the psychology to tap into what's living. Okay, so 3 pillars of economic stability. How to put the exponential money market mechanics to work in what you're already doing. So again, I want to emphasize, I'm not trying to give you a new model. I want to help others tap into what they're already doing and just make the new financial system work for everybody. And there's a lot of financial systems out there. I'd like to find the intersections. So we're interrupting the cultural divisiveness, and we do that by facilitating what I call fellowship. Now, fellowship is not intended to be anything religious, unless you want to make religion a part of your fellowship. If that's a big part of your life, I encourage that. I think spirituality, religion is very beneficial and very healing, especially if it can honor diversity and honor diverse points of view. So I'm going to ask some questions, and I'm going to ask you to consider these questions. If you have to pause this recording, please do so. So have you ever wondered why building a community is so challenging? In my experiences, and I've been involved in my local time bank, my local transition town community, why is it so challenging to bring people together to have the deep conversations that move everybody forward? Are you curious about why dedication and commitment seem so elusive? Like, a lot of people are very good at starting, but when the finish line is near, there's very few people there to cross that finish line. There's this beautiful African proverb that I subscribe to a lot, is that if you want to go fast, yeah, go alone. But if you really want to go far, go together. So we want to ask, how do we bring people together to go the distance? And finally, do you personally have a role? Do you have a major role to play in bridging social and cultural gaps? Do you have a role to play in bridging the gaps in misunderstanding? Do you have a passion for that? So if you do, definitely let's talk. So cultural divisiveness is a byproduct of competitive conditioning. And this is really an underdevelopment of emotional intelligence. So I talked a little bit about acquired sociopathy. This is the conditioning, the ego's drive to be better than everyone else, is what creates conflict, poverty, and social inequality. So when I say that competitive conditioning is what causes all of this, please don't misunderstand me. Intrinsic competitiveness, the desire to be a better person, the desire to understand your emotions, the desire to relate to others better, that's very healthy competitiveness. But when it's the ego that's trying to either, kill or exploit, that's when it becomes destructive, and that's what leads to, mental health issues as well. So here's a key understanding. Most people, especially our political and corporate leadership, are functioning only between a 5 and 10-year-old emotional level. I know that could be a very polarizing statement, okay, and I accept that. And if that statement angers you or triggers something in you, step into that. Be with that for a moment. I think the first step in healing and the first step in bringing people together to cultivate a safe space of understanding is to acknowledge how we are being culturally conditioned to see each other as competitors, to see each other to isolate ourselves, to think our perception of the world is the only perception and there's no other truth out there. That's emotional regressiveness. So, so to really take a moment and ask yourself, in how many ways are your buttons being pushed? If that feels unsettling to you, then to me that's a good thing. It means that there's room for growth. There's room to grow up emotionally. So I think the first step is really just acceptance. Acceptance of your feelings. So this is a picture here of our core fellowship at the Karmic Margin Call Project. We do have calls every other week where we share ideas. I do have the first couple months of those calls available at roguecounselor.com. But this is really kind of the statement that is the foundation of what we're going for here, is that economic equality is deceptively very easy. This challenge is really in creating trusting interpersonal relationships, which allows this economic equality to flourish. So the problem is not systemic. The problem is not something that the government is going to fix. It's not something that our political leadership is going to fix. It's something that we can fix organically together. But we first have to cultivate an atmosphere of trust. And that takes time. It takes time being vulnerable and being honest. So, and it really takes a lot of patience now to get through the sociopathy that's being exhibited by our political and corporate leadership. Power is very addictive. So it's kind of like when the reputation or the safety even is on the line, people make, I won't say wrong decisions, but they make destructive decisions. And that's something that requires a lot of patience and understanding and listening. That's, those kind of skills need to be deployed. So establishing fellowship. If you don't have the relationship, there's nothing. So in this year, my focus is going to be in establishing the relationship above anything else. Without the relationship, without the fellowship, there is no time bank. And then without the time bank, there is no reverse market mechanics. There is no regenerative economy. So fellowship comes first, relationship comes first. So we seek to increase everybody's value by relationship building. So we've done this for a long time. We've been isolated. We've been competitive. It's time to open up and share those great ideas. And I believe we've found a way that everybody can benefit from that, from sharing, and not from hoarding and keeping knowledge secret. So the things that we really want to attain in establishing fellowship is how to communicate in a collaborative way, free from hierarchy, free from judgment. That's something that we try to cultivate. We try to go from a place of judgment to a place of curiosity. You'll double your value and everyone else's value, by participating and initiating in fellowship. So, I'm offering this presentation today as an initiation process, opening the door. I also participate in about 10 different fellowships where I do more listening and I do more learning than anything else. So having that balance of initiating and participating, I think, is key to the reciprocity, the giving and the taking within the relationship process. And another thing we value is that we spend time with others who genuinely are cultivating skills for giving and taking in an exchange. So again, reciprocity is a major value that we hold. Okay, so we talked about fellowship facilitation as the interruption of cultural divisiveness. The second one is we're interrupting competitive conditioning, and we do that through time bank brokering. So the basic idea of a time bank is that everybody's time, regardless of socioeconomic status, is equally valuable. So we have different needs at different times of our lives. We have different needs in, during our day. So regardless of what your interests are, someone who has a completely different life path is just the same value as you. But they may have been told that they're not worth as much, or they may have been told that they're worth more. Whatever their value system is, they still have value too. So it's this idea that everybody's time, everybody's hour is worth something, and that there are no throwaway people. So we're all, if we get away from hierarchy, we start to understand that, this is a big puzzle, and everybody has a piece of that puzzle to contribute. So that's, that's the basic understanding of reciprocity as well too, of learning to tune in to somebody's value. And we do that through the time banking relationships. So we interrupt competitive conditioning by asking the question, are you just done dedicating your time, to people who do not appreciate you? So that's a big decision. If that answer is definitely yes, then, it's time to open up that conversation. Are you tired of competing just to be heard? The internet is the Wild West right now. Everybody has something to say, but very few people are demonstrating the ability to listen. So if you have great ideas and you have something to contribute, but you're tired of shouting over the noise to be heard, come talk to us. Cultivate those safe spaces to listen, and we do that within the time banking relationships. Does working in a hierarchical structure, does that kind of environment feel emotionally toxic? And only you can know that. I'm not asking anybody to renounce corporations or to renounce, that kind of economy. But if you are honest with yourself and you feel there's just something not right about it, there's something emotionally toxic about it, we invite you to dedicate 1 hour a month, maybe 2 hours a month to explore that, just to explore that. So there's no need to renounce anything. We're not trying to change the world overnight. We change it 1 hour at a time. So if that feels emotionally toxic to you, I know for me personally, I've been there. I've worked for probably 5 or 6 different companies throughout my lifetime. I want to explore that, and we need to give each other the space to safely explore, what's not quite right yet. So most people do not know how to communicate in a collaborative fashion. And there comes a point where you have these deep conversations enough that you stop blaming someone else for that. Through our conditioning, through our government, through our education system, all of this, it's keeping us emotionally immature, emotionally regressive. That's not your fault. And I would even go so far as to say it might not even be their fault. But it's our responsibility to start to understand what is collaboration, what is emotional intelligence, and how do we lift the team up. Also, almost no one understands the value of fellowship. And this is the true secret behind power and influence. What's not really seen is that people who appear to be mortal enemies in front of the camera, like you have your conflicts between the right and the left, the socialists and the capitalists, the conservatives and the liberals. At the top of that power of pyramid, those who you would think would be mortal enemies, especially in front of the camera, they're praying together, they're collaborating together behind closed doors. I know that sounds like conspiracy, but when you go deep enough into this, it just makes sense. It's kind of like I like to compare it to like professional wrestling. It's a show. It's a show about 2 people who have a conflict, and they create this choreography, this art around the conflict. The people that we don't have access to are like the promoters. They know the outcome, they're planning the outcome, they're adjusting the outcome, based on who's popular, who's hated, and they adjust the script to kind of make the money, to abstract the most emotional response. That's what we're experiencing in the extractive economy. But there's collaboration on their end. We just don't see it. So now it's time to kind of, again, emotionally grow up a little bit, understand our own emotional addictions, and value fellowship. Value fellowship. And this is big. Even the most highly trained people fall short in practicing emotional intelligence when their job, reputation, or safety is on the line. So, and that's big. Again, with empathy, comes a little bit of nervousness, comes a little bit of fear. I have a very good friend who was a confidant for a billionaire, and who had been a financial advisor to a billionaire family. This person understands what I'm doing, understands reverse market mechanics. And this person said to me, look, Mike, if people were capable of understanding what you're trying to do, your life would be in danger. So I come to this material quite a bit with a little bit of nervousness and maybe practicing a little bit of courage, because I know there's a lot on the line for me personally. Now, I don't know how true that is, that my life might be in danger, but it's a chance I'm willing to take to be honest and authentic and to share, in the spirit of fellowship. And I want to be clear. I'm not here to fight or destroy or tear down anything. I'm here to open the space up for truth. And I don't think that needs aggression. I think we're all going to move forward in being honest and vulnerable. And I was talking to my good friend Amelia Duran yesterday, and I quoted one of the Star Wars movies. We're not going to get where we want. We're not going to win by destroying what we hate. We're going to win by protecting what we love. So if there's any question whatsoever about where I stand as far as the power in this world, I'm not looking to destroy anybody. I'm not looking to, I'm not looking to, looking for war. I'm looking to transcend war. I'm looking to open the safe space up where even people who are really hard on themselves, who have turned off their ability to empathize, who are practicing acquired sociopathy. I want you to know that we've all made mistakes, and there's gold in that mistake. There's gold in those mistakes. So I'm not here to beat you. I'm here to open things up. So time banking, the key concept is that time is a tangible and measurable asset. So the extractive economy puts value on things outside of us: real estate, data, oil, all of these things that can be mined, extracted. And we place value on what's extrinsic. That's going to lead to a shutting down of empathy. Time, how we spend our time, is tangible and measurable, and it has immense value. It's just been exploited and devalued. So as I go forward and help you understand reverse market mechanics a little bit more, I'm hoping to share with you how to take back the value of the time you spend. And that translates into financial gain. That also translates into shifting of an economic paradigm. So I want to stay on this page for just a moment and let that sink in. Your time is an asset. And if we all collectively agree, even if just a small percentage of us collectively agree that that is more valuable than what is extracted, then we have the foundation for changing things.